The newspapers yesterday carried the Oxfam India's annual report on economic inequality in India. Oxfam, an international NGO, brings out this report every year for almost all the major economies of the world. This report is published each year on the opening day of the World Economic Forum, which is organized in Davos, the Swiss ski resort. What's the highlight of the Oxfam India report this year, which was released last Monday? The highlight is, in fact, the highlight of the entire world, exemplary wealth and exemplary poverty has come together simultaneously for the first time in 25 years. Here is the food for thought. The COVID-19 pandemic brought misery to millions of people across the world, but the same pandemic helped increase the net worth of the super rich to an unprecedented level. This paradox is the reality of the prevalent economic system today in almost all parts of the world, maybe with the exception of the Scandinavian countries. The Oxfam's India report develops on the same theme and presents before us startling figures. It says that the number of billionaires in India increased from 102 in 2020 to 1,166 in 2022. Don't you find this incredible? In those 2 years, 40 lakh Indians died in the pandemic, if you go by the estimate of the World Health Organization, a credible international health monitoring body. The Oxfam report, whose credibility is also internationally recognized, says that the number of hungry Indians, which was 190 million in 2018, increased to 350 million in 2022. This also includes those 2 years of pandemic. Then juxtapose it. The number of billionaires going up in exactly the same proportion in which the number of our children dying of hunger and malnutrition is increasing during the pandemic years. Look at the terrifying data. Some of the poorest states of our country have infant mortality rates higher than those in sub-Saharan Africa. It's just not that this is the plight of only the poorest states. Look at the overall figure for the country. India accounts for 17% of global maternal deaths and 21% of the deaths among children below 5 years. We take pride being fifth largest economy of the world. Shouldn't we be ashamed then that we are there at the very top when it comes to the number of mothers and children facing an untimely death year after year? We are aiming to be the third largest economy of the world in another 7 years. But why can't we have resources to save our mothers and children who are dying for lack of nutrition, for lack of adequate medical care? When it comes to fronting our riches, when the world hails us for letting capitalism take wings in our country, we bask in that glory. We tum-tum ourselves for attaining the status of a developing nation. But when the same world points to the stark figures of infant mortality and maternal mortality, either we see conspiracies all around or we get into the denial mode. Why can't we allocate more resources to healthcare and child nutrition? Maybe the most sought after midday meal program. Any developing country ought to allocate at least 6% of its GDP to government healthcare provisions. And a developing country should spend much more. But we are spending just about 3%. What are we then? A developed country, a developing country, or an underdeveloped country? In fact, in 2013-14, we spent almost 4%, 3.9% to be exact, on healthcare. In 2018-19, our healthcare expenditure has come down to 3.3%. We are a poor country lacking resources. How can we spend so much on healthcare alone? This is the response of our esteemed policymakers. Well, how much more do we need to spend to provide adequate child nutrition? An expert calculation says that 40,000 crore more needed to meet the requirement of our children's nutrition. Oxfam India has an answer even for this. It suggests to the Indian government, if you don't have enough money to provide effective child nutrition, then you may do one thing. Tax India's 122 billionaires just 2% of their wealth. Mind you, it's just one-off thing, a 2% tax to be levied only once. It's not going to be an annual feature. Then that itself would yield more than 1.2 lakh crore. It means that would take care of 3 years of a full nutrition program for poor children of this country. Can't the 122 super rich persons spare 2% of their wealth just once to bring about transformation in the lives of hundreds of millions of poor children of our country? I don't think that the wealthiest people of this country have such a small heart that they would resist such a move. It is the government of India, which has to show the good intention, the desire to initiate that move. But that is possible only if the party in power does not get into the low politics. If it starts calculating and sending a message to billionaires, why give 1.2 lakh crore in the tax? Just pay half that money, 60,000 crore, to the ruling party through the electoral bond. Then you billionaires, you save 60,000 crore. We get 60,000 crore so that a part of our election expenses are taken care of. That's the message of the ruling party. Then, so it would be a win-win situation for both the ruling party and the big business class. This low politics has been the cause of the miseries in our country. Because of this low politics, our mothers and children are dying in hordes, dying an untimely death. We, the citizens of India, must force the hands of our leaders not to betray millions of poor mothers and children of our country just for the sake of their selfish aims. That should be our motto and that should be our pledge.